Radio Cardiff 98.7 FM.
Good afternoon, you're listening to Jane Morris on Radio Cardiff 98.7 FM. I'm joined on the line by Alison Moyet. Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing really, really well, thank you, now that I finally arrived.
Oh, great. Do you know what? It's really nice to actually talk to someone that so long ago you were a big fan of.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, thank you.
That's all right. Anyway, forget about me. Well, you've got a new album out this year, haven't you?
Yes, it came out in April, I believe, and it's been astonishing. It went in at number 5, which was quite incredible for someone of my age.
Well, you talk a lot about your age. You're not that old, really, are you?
No, well, no. 52 is not about being that old, but obviously for this job, it's it's an interesting thing. Also, you do get to a certain point in your career where new music is not really wanted from you by the industry. I mean, it's different with your fans, but by the industry. So, I see it as a mark of success that I can still get new songs out there as opposed to cover tracks.
Yeah. Well, the album's called The Minutes.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about behind the album, what it's about?
Well, I think it's hard to say what an album's about because obviously you're dealing with like a collection of short stories effectively within the songs. But for me, the theme has changed somewhat. When I first started writing, you was going from this romantic standpoint, having listened to Janis Joplin, people like that, soul music when you were a kid. And I've got to that stage of my life where I'm just not motivated by I suppose romance I suppose is what it is, and less interested in the relationships between two people and more about your position in the world and actually the joy of being insignificant.
Yeah. And the Changeling, that's going to be the latest single from the album.
Yes. Yeah, Changeling, that kind of... I wrote that song looking out of a window one time in a hotel, how you're kind of silenced through the double glazing and you're just looking out at this kind of manic behaviour that's going on in the street, mouthed words, it says in the song that look like violence, and just being aware of how fast the world speeds up, how impersonal it all becomes, and comparing that with when you were a child, when you felt like the only thing that was moving was you, and at any time you could turn back and everything would be exactly as you left it, but how the fact that really as you're moving the world changes with you and there's no return. It kind of sounds bleak, but it's just discussing the difference between the freneticism of adult life and the innocence of youth, I suppose.
Yeah. Do you ever wish you could go back and start again?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Would you do things differently?
I think I'd do lots of things differently, but also I think I'd be easier on myself. That's kind of like one of those letters to your 16-year-old self. I'm sure it's the case of everyone, and anybody who kind of gets to this stage and says they have no regrets. Well, I can only admire them. I've got plenty.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how did you actually get into the music industry in the first place? Because you were fairly young, weren't you?
I was, yeah. It happened in some ways by accident. I was born in the 60s, and so I was a teenager in the 70s when punk happened, and that was like a really significant time for me. I'd always felt a little bit like a black sheep. I came from this peasant French family, and never had a dress, never had a doll, that kind of business, and so didn't really quite know the culture of young girls. And when punk happened, and we were allowed to throw that aside, I really found my place within that, and being a part of a band was something that that everyone did. All of my mates were in a band. We didn't have money to be partying or going out or even buying records, so our entertainment was made by us ourselves. And so I became a singer, and probably because I had the most front, really. I wasn't too embarrassed by it much, and I became the singer, and then when Vince was looking for someone to sing on his song, he knew of me because he's a local boy and I'd been playing longer than him, and he asked me to sing on his record, and that was kind of it. And then thus begun my recording career.
Yazoo is something that I still dip into occasionally now, but it kind of didn't sound like anything else at the time, though. No,
it didn't, because synthesizers were broad synthesizers. I mean, I know you had bands like my brain's gone completely dead. I can't even think of someone, but there were plenty of people that were using synthesizers before. But in terms of using it as just the broad space for pop music. It hadn't been happening a great deal. And when Vince and I started working together, we came from very different places. Vincent was kind of in that new romantic area. You know, I was playing in the clubs and pubs with people like Dr. Feelgood and Lou Lewis and stuff like that. And when we started working together, we didn't reference anything. You know, he never asked me to sing in a particular way. I never asked him to arrange my songs in a particular way. We just both did our thing separately and brought that together, and that's why I think you end up with this kind of amalgam that wasn't like anything else that was going on.
You listen to the tracks, and in a lot of ways it's really stark. It's just the synth in your voice, but it kind of fills the whole room. Yeah,
well, it was a burgeoning technology. You know, the kids who were learning how to write songs on computers were learning two disciplines at the same time. You know. And in those days, the analog synths, you couldn't create pads. You wouldn't be making, you wouldn't effectively be playing chords. So all of the chord information had to be inferred by melodic lines, and that's why there's so much air within those tracks.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm telling you your own history, but you know your history as well as I do. Obviously, you went to solo.
You'd be surprised how much I've forgotten, I'll tell you.
Then the solo album Alf came out. That, you know, I mean, that was a big hit for you, and Rain Dancing as well. It just seemed that, like, I suppose the world was your oyster.
Well, I mean, you know, I was certainly, you know, for a couple of years the biggest selling female singer in the country, and that was all quite a surprise for me, you know. But it's not. I didn't even understand how it happened then. I remember someone saying to me at the time, you know, how'd you get a hit record? And it's like, well, I thought that what happened is you recorded a song, you gave it to a plugger, the plugger took it to the radio station, all the radio stations played it, and then everyone bought it. Because that's what my experience has been, you know. You know, I didn't realise quite how lucky I'd been or how unusual it had all been. But, yeah, I mean, you know, in terms of record selling, I did very, very well. I mean, the downside of that is that you become very famous before you really understand who you are as a musical entity, you know. That can become difficult when you realise, actually, that's not the route that I want to go down, but everyone is very sure that's who you are.
What did you actually want to do?
Well, I was training to be... Are you talking about musically or in my life?
Well, yeah.
I was training to be a piano tuner and a builder, a piano builder and a tuner, and that's what my job would have been had this not kind of taken off. I remember being at college at the time, and I could either finish my course, and it actually looked like, for the rare occasion, I was actually going to finish something, or go with Yazoo to do this first TV we had in Ireland, and so I went. And, you know, and bizarrely, you know, I have, you know, much as it's brilliant, there's a bit of regret in there for me. I would have loved to have completed a project and, you know, some study, and I get a bit dewy-eyed about people who do it.
Well, I suppose you can always go back to it.
Oh, I think it's lost to me. You know, I've come to the conclusion that whilst I'm not stupid, I don't have that kind of retentive brain. I have too much ADHD about me to be able to focus too long.
So you're actually touring with the album now. You're going to be in Cardiff on the 20th of October.
Yeah, well, I start, in fact, today, later on today, I go back into production rehearsals, and it's all going off. And, you know, if you're telling me that's where I'm going to be, I'm going to believe you, because it really is the case that the door gets knocked, there's a car outside, I get in it, and they take me somewhere. That's what happens. Mm-hmm.
So what can the fans expect at the shows?
Well, this time, you know, for the last 20 years, I've been working with a, you know, generic band, you know, a typical guitar lineup, really, a guitar and piano lineup. This time round, we're going out there as an electronic outfit, and I'm going to be performing songs from Yazoo, from my own work, but all, with an electronic template, computer template.
Excellent. Well, Alison, thank you so much for speaking to us today.
It's a real pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, it's been a pleasure for me too. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Radio Cardiff.